The housing crisis in America continues unabated, and we need to talk about it. My name is Samuel Ronan, and I hope to be your president one day. And as I just said, we need to talk about this housing crisis. There are 3.2 million homes deficit in our country. What that means is there are 3.2 million people who need a home, who want a home, who could probably afford a home, but can't because there isn't one available. And the thing is, when you have 40% of all residential property purchases by financial firms and institutions, that is a large contributor to this crisis. Then you tack on to the fact that rent continuously skyrockets and is increasing all across the country. No longer is the $600 a month, all utilities included apartment in existence literally anywhere. I mean, maybe there's like some small place where it does exist, but it isn't the norm, and it used to be. That used to be the standard. $600 a month with all utilities included used to be the norm. And now you'd have to search far and wide to find it. And would it still be a quality place to live? So you have a lack of residential property and you have increasing rental costs, and you still have this ongoing stupidity where banks will not give people loans to buy homes or to build homes, but instead force them to pay an excess of $500 or $1,000 of what they would be paying in mortgage and rent. And on top of that, your rent payments do not contribute to your records, your credit scores, which is usually the main requirement in order to get a home loan. So we have the banks that are preventing people from buying because the system is stupid. It truly, I mean, there's no other way to phrase it. It is stupid. And you have financial institutions buying residential property and turning them into rental properties, and then they are jacking up those rental prices artificially so that they can turn a profit. And this circle goes round and round and round. This is a problem, and it needs to be addressed in two ways. First, financial institutions should not have any hand in residential property ownership at all. That is literally privatization of what should be public housing, right? And when I say public, I don't mean Section 8. I mean, this is something that should belong to the individual, not to an entity. That's the first thing. The second thing is rent controls. I mean, let's call a spade, and there is a lot of evidence showcasing that this is happening across the country, but it needs to happen faster, it needs to happen sooner, and the rent control needs to be brought even lower. Rent control at $2,000 is still egregious when most of these places require triple the salary income, which at $2,000 is a $72,000 income, which is the upper 75 percentile of earners, or I'm sorry, the upper 25% of earners. So that means 75% of Americans don't make $72,000, right? So how can you be expected to make that the cap when the majority of people can't afford that? The cap needs to be $1,000. It needs to be $1,500. It needs to be significantly less than $2,000. And utilities should be included in that. And the reason why is because that makes sense. If you are going to call yourself a housing provider, then you need to provide housing. What housing providing is, what landlords are, what these tenant companies are, these complexes and everything, are profit generating mechanisms through residential property. That's it. They are profit generating, for-profit, private entities that do not provide housing. If anything, they withhold housing. They are withholding housing because they cannot give it to you without the profit incentive, right? So we need to fundamentally talk about housing, public housing, rent control, the residential market. We need to talk about these things seriously and truly understand that we have been misled, lied, manipulated, and controlled into the state of affairs that we are currently in. And as your future president, my goal is to set those wrongs to right. Again, if you're a renter, that should contribute to your credit score. Granted, the credit score argument is a whole different discussion, but it should contribute to you being able to get a loan. Financial firms should not be able to get into residential property at all, and we need rent control across the board. And if you'd like to learn more, Check out these videos next.